Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, and welcome along to your afternoon rabble here on the Rangers Rabble podcast. Just before I hope nobody's eating. Just before I started, I just swallowed some saliva, so that's a good start. I am joined today by Mr. Wilf Marshall. Wilf, how are you?
Yeah, I'm okay, Martin. Yeah, just having a day of thinking of what might have been because, but for a ridiculous penalty decision, we didn't get in Bilbao. We could be back in Bilbao today, but it's one of those things, isn't it? You can't live with if buts and maybes, I'm afraid.
This is true. At least everybody will be able to see you, Wilf. That's the main thing.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. And apologies, I'm sitting here with a high vis jacket on, but my company don't pay me enough to advertise them on YouTube, and the company logos on my photo top, so I don't want to be advertising them because they're not paying me for that. So,
Oh, exactly. Well, exactly. If they ain't paying, they ain't getting advertised. This is true.
right.
This is true. Right, we'll start with a rumour that can probably be quashed now. Well, there was a lot of talk. Obviously, Stephen Gerrard's in the frame for the Rangers job, and he was battling it out with Russell Martin. A lot of reports down south now, as John's saying here, apparently Martin is going to Leicester.
I saw that. I thought it was you that was going to Leicester.
No chance. Absolutely no chance.
No, I caught
Something
something about that just before the logged on, just when I parked up. It said something that he's going to be replacing with Van Nistelrooy. So I'd heard yesterday he's been interviewed by Hull. So it certainly looks like he's staying in England, which is fine because I don't think he's done enough to be considered for a Rangers manager at the moment. I mean, if he ever was to be considered in the future, you have to forget what he did or didn't do for us as a player and look at his credentials as a manager. Because if you start saying, well, we don't want him because he was terrible as a player, then there's going to be potentially decent managers. I mean, look at Sir Alex Ferguson. Sir Alex Ferguson didn't do a lot for us as a player, but who wouldn't have taken him as a manager?
Yeah, very much so. But maybe not quite in his first couple of years at Man U, to be fair. But he done no bad after that, well.
But look what he did at Aberdeen previous to that, and at St Mirren previous to that. You know what I mean? So to me, you can't say, well, I don't want him because he's a car crash as a player, because, well, not necessarily a player for us, but I mean, Jose Mourinho wasn't a player at all. Arsene Wenger didn't have a career as a player, so you can't really look at that.
No, you can't. I don't know if you've seen the clip I put out. Stuart saying that one of the main reasons he didn't want Russell Martin, was because of the Whittaker situation and coming back and forth with bids and changing their minds and effectively keeping their player. That was one of the main reasons that Stuart didn't want him. I'll be honest with you, Will, if the shoe was in the other foot, I want my manager, custodian, director of football, whatever it is, to be as hard nosed as that.
Yeah, you've got to play hardball for the company, or in this case, club you're working for at the time. I mean, I get where Stuart's coming from, but I'd like to sort of throw it back at him and say, where would you have been if he on Russell Martin, if Russell Martin had said, Whittaker, okay, tell you what, don't give us that, give us slightly less, just roll over and let us tickle his belly. We don't want stuff like that. I mean, we as a club, Rangers have done it for so long, we've just let players go for next to nothing, and we'll get on to that when players we've just released. But you know what I mean? We need somebody that'll come in and play hardball and say, look, you're not paying that. You know what I mean? We want this, and if we don't give them this, you're not getting it. Which is effectively what Russell Martin did.
Pretty much, to be brutally honest. Thank you for all the comments regarding my background. It's not sorted the way I want it yet. I'm not sitting in the position that I want to be sitting in yet, but we're getting there. Slowly but surely, we're getting there. I need a new seat, but well, this is. I mean, I'm not going to be too gruesome on an afternoon rabble, but it's sore.
Well, just do yourself a favour. Don't get yourself a seat like Dundee United use for the press conferences, because if you've seen that, it's like a very, very tight gaming chair that they put the manager in, and he looks ridiculous. So don't get one of them.
Oh, I would just take anything right now, to be honest. It isn't this seat, but there we go. Right, we'll obviously come back and talk Gerrard in a wee second. There's some rumours about Jordan Henderson coming to the football club along with Stephen Davis, etc., etc. So we'll get to that, right? We'll get to that. But first of all, I do want to talk about what we've titled the show, Hagi, Lawrence and Balogun all gone. Leon Balogun obviously announced it on socials. I think it was yesterday. Shame, Wilf, because there was still a few people saying that they felt that, all right, even though he's getting on a bit, he could have maybe gave us one more year.
I would potentially kept Leon Balogun about the building. He's not on a lot of money. I've just seen a comment saying that somebody can't hear me. I'm not sure if you can hear me or not. So
ignore Ian. Everybody can hear you. Ignore Ian.
All right, it was just I can't see who the comments are from on my phone. So I'd possibly kept Liam Balogun about the building because he's not on a lot of money for a football player. He's on less than 10 grand a week, which to mere mortals like me is a lot of money, but in the grand scheme of things, I don't think it is. He seems to get the football club, and it might be nice to have him about the place. You know, even to look after the new players that come in and tell them what it's all about, or tell them how he found out what it's all about. You know, because we've talked about this in the last couple of summers, that we used to have Sandy Jardine used to show new players about. Then the late great Jimmy Bell did the same. We don't have anybody with that ilk. I know Liam Balogun's not born and bred a blue nose like us, but he does seem to get it. So it maybe wouldn't have hurt to keep him about the place, registered as a player just in case we needed him. You know what I mean? But there's nothing to say that he won't be back, because if you look at the two guys that are out on loan at Birmingham, their loans are up. Birmingham have said thanks very much, lads, away back to Rangers, but Birmingham still want to sign them. So because we don't have any directors, the takeover's not happened yet. We don't have the people making the decisions in situ yet. You know, things like this could still happen. There's nothing to say that we won't go back to say to Leon Balogun, look, you know, we know your contract's expired, but would you come back? You know, it could be the same with Ianis Hagi, although I very much doubt that, because he was supposed to have a year to run from now, but that was obviously negotiated down when we sorted out his contract at the start of the year. So it's a difficult one because we don't have decision makers in place here.
Yeah, it is. It is. Can people in the comments just give me a yes or a no? Can you hear us? Can you hear me and Wilf? I would have thought 8 minutes in, if they couldn't hear us, they would have all let us know. But there is one or two people that have said they're having technical difficulties. But I'm hoping. Oh yeah, okay, it's all coming in. They can hear us. All good. All good.
Well, I don't know if it's good or not that they can hear me, but
it's probably not good that they can hear me, Well, let's be honest, because I've got a wee bit of a sore throat today. I was probably advocating more and more as the season was coming to a finish that, look, we need to stop looking back the way, we need to move forward. Balogun, albeit he's probably the best defender we've got at the football club, it's time to move on. So it's a bit hypocritical me asking this question, Wilf. But would he have done for another year, just in terms of player-wise?
Not
or were the injuries starting to become a bit of an issue?
Well, the injuries have always been a bit of an issue. I mean, he's not a young man anymore, and I mean the last one we'll have seen of him is him limping around the pitch at Easter Road after he got injured on Saturday. I mean, I kept him about, kept him registered. The problem with Liam Balogun's got the same problem Brian Jack had. His body's not made for high intensity football 2 or 3 times a week. But I mean, Liam Balogun's excuse could be he's on the wrong side. He's on the wrong side of 35. Ryan Jack's just his body was knackered. So I would probably keep Liam Balogun about, but I can understand people that say no, get rid of him. We could probably spend that money better elsewhere. If we can get better than Liam Balogun to come in as a 4th or 5th choice centre back, then fine, happy with that. The other thing you've got to remember, though, Liam was happy happy with the situation. But look, you're going to be 4th choice centre back. A set of circumstances meant he played more than he probably should have last season.
Apologies. You didn't finish that the way you usually finish a sentence, Wilf. You usually tone it down a bit so I know when you're going to finish, but you were just boom right in there. Tom Lawrence, no real surprise, Wilf. If we talk about injuries, his name's probably quite close to the top of that list. Again, and we'll talk Hagi in a wee second, but Rangers announced that also Tom Lawrence will be leaving the club. It wasn't all negative with Tom. He did do some good things for the football club. Let's be fair, but just not available enough.
Good player, not. I mean, the best ability a football player can have is availability. He just didn't have that. So, you know what I mean? It's just, I mean, on the money we were paying him, over 20 grand a week, paying the guy that kind of money, you need to be getting a lot. You need to be playing on a regular basis. Unfortunately, he wasn't due to injuries. I was a bit annoyed when Barry Ferguson came in and started playing at the end of the season, because we all knew then that Tom Lawrence didn't have a future at the football club. So I didn't see why he was getting minutes. But then Barry Ferguson was looking after his own interests, and because he kind of knew he wasn't getting the gig anyway. So, but no, I feel a bit for Tom Lawrence, because he did have flashes, he did bits here and there, but again, the Rangers curse injuries just absolutely crucified him.
Yeah, they absolutely did. The much talked about Ianis Hagi, obviously depends on what way you look at it, helped the club out by coming to a deal, not taking the wage riser. They knocked a year off his contract. That's been done. He's left the football club. Well, I don't really know what your thoughts are on Ianis leaving, but does it bother you? Should we have kept him? Should we have looked to extend the contract? Are you a bit annoyed that he's left for a free?
I'm disappointed he's left for a free, but at least we managed to get him playing again, because there was a contract impasse at the start of the season when he was due whatever it was. He was due an upgrade in his wages, and the club quite frankly couldn't afford that, weren't able to pay it. So they managed to come to an agreement, and as I said earlier, the agreement appears to be we'll take the last year off the contract and let you go for free this summer, so you can get the money elsewhere. The problem with Ianis Hagi's got now is last summer when he was available, nobody wanted him, or nobody wanted him at the level of money he wanted. So he might now be struggling to get a team. He might have been better to renegotiate with Rangers, but then a new manager might not have wanted Ianis Hagi. And I found that startling for a football man not to want him, but there is always that situation. But it's unfortunate for Ianis. I'm just glad we managed to get him back for the second half of the season. It did mean we've had to lose him a year early, but it's one of those things. That's football.
What have you made of Ianis' time at Rangers?
Been disappointed, but again, like everybody else, he's got injured. I mean, it's the injuries that have crippled him, and I was very disappointed with the contract talks, but then you can't blame the guy. He signed a contract in good faith. The club at that time weren't prepared to honour it. So, he, to be fair to him, he sort of instigated the compromise. From what I can gather, he said, "Look, let's get around the table, let's come to an agreement." And he appears to have said, "Right, we'll waive my pay increase, but you need to let me go for free at the end of the season," which means you'll get the money at the back end. You instead of commanding a transfer fee, which you would have commanded leaving now with a year left, you'll get that as a signing on fee. As I say, if you can find a club.
There's a few people in the comments here, Will, saying that they feel that Lyle Cameron, I nearly forgot his name there, that'd be poor. Lyle Cameron's effectively Ianis Hagi's replacement. I don't know if they're really that similar. I keep seeing that Lyle Cameron's a 10. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I've watched Hunters of Dundee. Cameron doesn't really strike me as a 10.
I don't know enough about the guy. I've heard the name. I've never really watched him play because, I watch Rangers. I don't really watch anybody else. I see the odd highlights here and there. You can't tell anything. You need to sit and watch Lyle Cameron play 90 minutes on, against numerous different opposition to find out what he actually is. We've got to trust the recruitment process in that. But I mean, there's a couple of comments going through there that I did catch that Hagi was on a lot of money and he was really slow. That's the problem with Ianis Hagi. He was really slow, and then he had a bad injury which made him even slower. Because let's be honest, Martin, if Ianis Hagi had pace, he would never have been at Rangers in the first place.
No, he was really good with both feet. The amount of times though that a pass was just in front of him and he couldn't get it, he couldn't get the ball.
Whatever we say about Ianis Hagi, we'll always have Braga.
We'll always have Braga. Absolutely we will. But I mean, that's a fair chunk of the wage bill taken away. Well, obviously we need to replace that. We need to bring players in. But it is a start, and it's a start of the clear out.
Well, it's something like 50 grand a week off the wage bill just for those 3 players alone leaving. You know, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. But you have to bring in similar or probably better quality. But I mean, it is a starting point. I just hope that we don't get held to ransom, and players go, well, you've just taken a lot of money off your wage bill, so instead of paying me this, can you pay me this plus this, because I know you've got to sit and wait. Because our wage bill was out of control as it was. I mean, losing that has basically put us now on a level we probably should have been at in the first place. The problem we've got is we have to replace the players, so it is going to nudge back up again.
Do you think, obviously, with no manager in place yet, big rumours as well that it's going to be Steven Gerrard? Again, don't know. Don't have the inside knowledge that others might have. Do you think there'll be more business done in terms of more so players leaving before a new manager comes in?
I don't know, because obviously the players that have left are 3 players that are out of contract and 3 whose loans have expired. So for players that are under contract to go, really should be on the new manager, depending on the structure. Because if it's a manager, then yes, it should be on the manager. If it's a head coach, it'll probably be more down to the director of football or the sporting director or whoever it is who's making those decisions. Obviously, the head coach gets the final say. But if the coach says, look, if a head coach comes in, as I understand it, and says, I want 2 right wingers, because the right winger we've got, I don't want them to get into the right winger that he's got, whatever. If it's a manager, I think the manager would have more of a say in it. But we have to get a manager appointed very, very quickly. I mean, if the Steven Gerrard rumours are true, the club have to let us know as soon as, because it was all over everything last night that he was in Glasgow. Deal had been agreed, deal had been signed. He was staying at Mar Hall. I saw something that he had to convince his wife it was the right move for him. If he's gone this far down the line, if every other rumour's true, he's already sorted out with his wife, because he's not going to come up to Ibrox to spend the night in Glasgow, etc., etc. Then say, by the way, boys, this is all agreed, but I need to go back and sort it out with the wife. You know what I mean, that would be done first before he even came up. So if those rumours are true, and there was an awful lot of them, the club have to come out and announce it, because they'll know there was a lot of rumours. They can't leave us hanging on. The longer it goes without them telling us, the less I believe the rumours.
Well, this is true. Is it the right move? Well, let's be honest. Is Gerrard the right move?
I'd be underwhelmed, because I don't like going back, and I'm still a wee bit dark the way that he left. He jumped at the first real opportunity he had to go to England. In hindsight, you may have went, well, it's a mistake. I'll come to Rangers. I'll do what I do. The plus side is he knows the football club, and he knows Scottish football, because Scottish football, as we keep saying, is a very, very strange little thing. Whoever comes in, I will give them my full 100% backing, because that's what we have to do as Rangers fans. I'd be underwhelmed if it's Gerrard. If it is Gerrard, and the rumours are flying about last night with Steven Gerrard, with Stephen Davis, who would have absolutely no problem with coming back in, and Jordan Henderson. Don't know what I think of Jordan Henderson coming in. If Jordan Henderson coming in even near it, hopefully he decides he's made his money playing in Saudi and comes in for a fraction of what he probably wants.
What would that be? Would that be as a coach, player? It just came out of nowhere.
When I was sent it last night, and it was the same thing I got sent by a couple of different people, which means it's somebody flying a kite. Because it's not, it was worded exactly the same, so it is just somebody flying a kite that's flying about the place. I heard he was coming in as a player coach. Now I don't know if Jordan Henderson's got his coaching badges. I have got absolutely no idea. I know Stephen Davis has, so I've no problem with Stephen Davis coming in. We have to remember we've already got an assistant manager in situ, so I don't know whether Steven Gerrard would work with him. But he's still there. That was always a club appointment, because he came in when the last manager was in. He stayed all through Barry Ferguson's reign, and he's still there. So that would be a club appointment. So you think he'd probably be staying about the place. So I don't know what to do for Jordan Henderson, because again, if you're taking somebody at the age of Jordan Henderson, then you're not as well keeping Leon Balogun. I know they're different players, but you get the point.
No, yeah, 100%. I'm 100% in agreement with you. We've got a couple of questions of the day, Will, right? First of all, if I can find it, it came in for Aldo. This is good, tell you this. quick one on this. Well, question of the day, Helicopter Sunday. Where were you when it happened? Since it's 20 years to the day tomorrow. Well, I don't think I have to guess where you were.
I was about 8 rows from the front, on the front section of Easter Road, behind the goal.
I didn't. I really didn't have to guess. But for the first time in a few episodes now, we at least get to do this.
It's the question of the day. If you love a good question, then we're coming your way with the question of the day. Question of the day.
I've not done that for a while. Keeps everybody happy, doesn't it? The wee question of the day. And the question of the day, well, this is going to be one of these ones. I'm going to ask you, right, and you're going to go, oh, I don't know. And then half an hour later, you give me an answer. So it's for Rhys McCallum. Who is the most underrated Rangers player of all time?
I can't answer it as of all time because
I knew it.
Contrary to belief, I haven't seen every game. I actually wasn't at Fletcher's Hall that first day back in April 1872, contrary to popular belief. But in my time, I would say probably the most underrated player is Stuart Munro. For me.
Stuart Munro? Really?
Munro. I think so. He was certainly the most underappreciated. I mean, he came in from Alaba for about, I don't know, 15 or 20 grand back in the early 80s, playing at fullback, and he chased a lot of fullbacks away from the club. I mean, Graham Souness came in trying to get rid of Stuart Munro, and Stuart Munro saw all sorts of all-comers. And for me, probably the most underrated player in my time watching Rangers, I would say, without thinking straight off the bat, I would say Stuart Munro.
I didn't think you would give me an answer as quickly as that. There is some coming in. The sniper's going Marvin Andrews. I agree with singing the blues. Sibo, yes. Absolutely. Jacob in the Starry-Eyed Shadows is going Peter Houstra. Of a player you'd have seen many times.
Yep, he was underappreciated. I can tell you a little story about Peter Houstra, actually. Not long after Peter Houstra joined, the Granite City Rangers Supporters Club had their, up here in Aberdeen, had their annual player of the year dinner, which they used to have after the second game at Petardich. Before, it's when all games were on a Saturday, before there was splits. You knew the fixtures the summer before, so you could organise things like that. And they just said, look, give us a player, anybody will do. And John Gregg walked in with Peter Houstra. And Peter Houstra hadn't been at the club long. It was the first player of the year dinner he'd ever been to. And somebody handed him a microphone. He just looked at Greggy and went, what do I do here? Didn't have a clue what to do. But he was really good value. He was really, really good value. He got thrown in at the deep end. So that's my little Peter Houstra story. But yeah.
I don't know what that's got to do with him being underrated, but I do like your stories. That's
a story about Peter Houstra. I think he probably was underappreciated because he was a winger, but he wasn't Davy Cooper, he wasn't Brian Laudrup.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a fair shout.
Terrific player. Yeah, terrific player.
Billy Dodds, Vikami. Billy Dodds was he was a decent striker. I know you're not a big fan. Decent striker. Bob McBob's giving it Sasa Papic.
Again, I don't know how anybody that's become a cult hero could be classed as underappreciated. I don't really know, but and Sasa's definitely a cult hero. So same as Sibo, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean Sibo is the greatest striker that we didn't give enough time to let it settle in. He would have ended up being just as good as original Ronaldo, I'm telling you. Lee Wallace is another for what he did for us. Stayed when he could have left and was a really good player.
Yeah, I think history will be better for Lee Wallace than it is at the moment. Than kind of, when we went down the division, we needed some continuity. With all these folk giving it, you're a new club, you're this, you're that. We needed some continuity. And Lee Wallace was part of that continuity because, as it says there, he stayed. I mean, Lee Wallace basically gave up his international career to play for Rangers because he was never ever getting picked for Scotland playing in Scotland's bottom league. He shouldn't have done it because he was the best in that position Scotland had, but you've got to understand why he wouldn't get picked at that time. But yeah, for what Lee Wallace did, he certainly got to be appreciated.
I certainly think so. Right, we'll finish up shortly. Well, just quickly going back to the whole manager situation. With all the noise surrounding Gerrard, it's went awfully quiet on Ancelotti. Does that put bed to rumours?
Well, if we're serious about Gerrard, Ancelotti, I don't think can even have been in the mix, because they're two. I mean, one of them's a head coach and one of them's a manager. So we're either looking for a manager or a head coach. I mean, the statement that the club put out when they said goodbye to Barry Ferguson and the boys was the search for a head coach continues. Steven Gerrard's not a head coach. Davide Ancelotti would be a head coach because that's what he does. He coaches. That's what he does. Because when Gerrard was here before, it was he was the figurehead, and it was always Michael Beale was the coach. So Gerrard is not a head. So if we look for a head coach, it can't be Steven Gerrard. And if the two choices were Gerrard or Ancelotti, it would strike me that we don't know what we're looking for, and that would spell a disaster going forward. And you just picked it up at the wrong time because I was finishing.
You done that on purpose. You absolutely done that on purpose. Is that us definitely saying that we know for sure that Gerrard wasn't the coach and it was Beale and it was McAllister and Gerrard was just the general manager, if you like?
We don't know that. We don't know that for sure. But I mean, Gerrard surrounded himself with coaches. Beale came into us as with a great reputation for being a coach. He had Tom Culshaw, who is a coach. He was in the coaching team as well. He had Gary Mack, who I think was the conduit between the players and the manager. So I'm not saying that Steven Gerrard didn't do the coaching, but I don't remember a lot of people, pushing back on the fact that he was the figurehead and the rest of the coaching team were the coaches.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see. I was told by somebody who watches us and is in the comments quite a lot that I would hear some news today. Haven't heard anything yet. You know who you are. I'm not going to shame you in front of everybody, but you know who you are. So we shall wait and see. I'm back at 6:30 tonight with David Edgar, folks. So make sure and tune in for that. A wee bit earlier this week because of the old Europa League, and then myself and Alex, I believe, I don't know if anybody else is joining us, we'll be live at around about 10 to 8 with your Europa League watch along. Well, just before we go, quick prediction from you or a thought. Tottenham versus Man U. I know you don't really care about any other football team. You don't watch any other football, but you've obviously seen both. They've played us in the Europa League this year. Your prediction for who's going to win?
I would, if it wasn't for who the manager is and the fact that a certain team on the other side of Glasgow would jump all over it, I would want Spurs to win. Simply because they haven't had a European trophy in a long, long time. For a few good pals that are Spurs fans, I'd like them to win for them. In all honesty, I really don't care. It's either going to be dull as dishwater or it's going to be an absolute classic because both defences, from what I've seen, are pretty poor. So, Man United are unbeaten in Europe this season. I don't think that. I don't know if that will continue. I mean, that could continue. They could still lose because they could finish level in 90 minutes and lose in extra time or penalties. So, I don't know. I just hope it's a decent game because I am going to watch it. I just hope it's a decent game. I hope there's no bother. I've got my suspicions that Bilbao could be like a shooting gallery this afternoon because it's not that big a city, and it's two sets of English fans plus the home support. The Bilbao support as well. It could get a bit silly out there. I hope it doesn't. I hope all passes off peacefully. And like I said, I don't really care. So as long as the best team on the day wins the trophy, that's fine. I'm happy with it.
I don't care either as long as Man U get beat. So that's all I care about. But I doubt that'll happen. If I had to bet my last penny, I would be betting Man U to win. Because it's Spurs.
Absolutely throw my daughter under a bus. She prefers Man U of all other teams in England. So from Demi's point of view, I still hope Spurs win.
Yeah, I'm sure she's supposed to be on this with me tomorrow. I'll need to rethink that.
She has all with you tomorrow.
If she prefers Man U, I need to rethink that. Anyway,
Okay.
folks,
Why do you think?
go and enjoy the rest of your day. Like I say, we are back at 6:30 tonight, myself and David Edgar, and then we're back as well later on after for a little Europa League watch along. Please like, share and subscribe and all that good stuff. Check out all our socials. We're putting out loads and loads of clips, so go and check them out. Wilf, thank you very much.
No problem, Martin, anytime.
And like I say to you all, folks, thank you for the support. The support is unreal and unmatched. And we shall speak very, very soon.